Let's talk about time. Understanding time should wake you up in life because the math with time is not on your side. And when we're young, or not even when we're young, just essentially for most people until they're very close to the end of their life, they have no conscious consideration of time or what it means. And even you can see that on a on a set of smaller time scales. Like if you think of when you started high school or when you started college or something like that, when you begin, you think that 4-year time span is forever. You don't have really a conception of 4 years as though it's a limited amount of time. You see it as an almost infinite amount of time, and so that drastically changes how you approach the situation. But interestingly, if you shorten the time scale even more, to the point that you can detect a possible immediate consequence in the future, like if you shorten the time scale to 2 minutes, you react. If somebody told you had 2 minutes to live, you would react really urgently. You would probably start to contemplate what the heck is the best thing for me to do with my time. I only have 2 minutes left. But when you tell somebody that they have 80 years left, or 30 years left, or 20 years left, or even 10, they don't exactly react with the same sense of urgency. But on a functional level, there's not that much of a difference. And I know that sounds crazy, but your reaction to how much time you have left in life, whether it's 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 years or 20 years or 3 weeks, it doesn't matter what time frame you have. You should be responding to life the same way. So the thing that kind of woke me up about being just passively aware of the fact that we have a limited time was firstly, and this sounds super extreme for some reason, to very transparently look at death. Now, I don't know what's gone on with this. When I was little, I was very afraid of dying, but then eventually I had to really accept that everything around us dies. Like almost everything you see on a daily basis, even the inanimate objects, because one day the earth is going to explode and get vaporized by the sun. Every single thing that you see in your perception is going to stop existing. And for living things, we call that death. You could extend it like I just did to inanimate stuff because it kind of dematerializes or whatever, but living things, we call that death. The universe itself is going to end. So to not start to gain a conscious perception or acceptance that death is something that's going to happen is really dodging a massive part of life. And this is an issue because without that, you're operating without context. And the exploration of that now gives you a whole different timeline to consider, because a lot of the people who are even quite good at planning are planning on 1-year time horizons, 5-year time horizons, 10-year time horizons. But you could take the same math you would do to calculate, let's say, how much time you have in a day or a week, and you could apply the same math to your estimated lifespan. So if you're in your 20s and we'll say you're going to live about 80 more years. Technically, the average life expectancy, at least in the U.S., is till you're 80, so it would be 60 more years. But we're going to be generous, and we're going to say you live 80 more years. So you're going to be 100 years old. That is about 30,000 days that you have left. But it's not a full 30,000 days if you prioritize them the way that you're used to prioritizing them. Because about a third of that is going to be dedicated to your sleep. So really, in terms of time you're consciously active, it's 16 hours a day or 20,000 days out of the rest of that 80-year span. And then if you are really prioritizing your life around free time and leisure time in the current social standard, you're going to work for 8 hours a day. And if you work for 8 hours a day, that's another third out of the 24 hours a day that's gone. So that really leaves you with 10,000 days out of the last 80 years of your life. And that is, I think, 20,000 days. I wrote that down before, but it's not pulled up right now. I think 20,000 days is somewhere around 56 years or something. And 10,000 days is like 30-ish, somewhere around there. But it's not, you're not done once you've subtracted your time at your job. Now you have to consider the fact that you have to travel to your job, and then you have to do certain self-maintenance tasks like go to the bathroom or take a shower or whatever. And that's going to take at least another 2, 3, 4 hours of your day, depending on the person. So now out of your initial 24 hours that you think you have per day, the amount of time you believe you have left to do the things that you overinflate in your mind, you really have minus 8 hours for sleep, 16 hours, minus 8 hours for work, 8 hours, minus 3 hours for maintenance tasks and travel, 5 hours. So you have maybe 5 hours outside of the normal standardized routine that you would kind of actually functionally consider time to live your life. So there's options that we have. One approach to dealing with that is people will go on the sort of not really unreasonable path. I don't disagree with this, but one stance on it is to buy back your time. And so you've classified your work at a standard working environment as a waste of time, and you can buy it back now. Or your time, let's say preparing food for yourself, as a waste of time. And then other tasks where you can kind of more, in a more free-flowing way, just pursue your interests, those are not a waste of time. Even if you buy back all of your time in that sense, you're still dealing with two problems. And one is that you're going to lose a third of it to sleep. And the other one is that you still don't know what to do with that 16-hour time block. So the reason that your time's getting eaten up at the moment isn't because you don't have enough time. Everybody has the same amount of time. We all have the same 24 hours. And in that 24 hours, some people do fantastic things and some people do literally nothing. So we all have the same amount of time. The question is, how do we use that time? And right now, our attention is so fixated on our external environment, and we're just trying to constantly change what's outside of us little by little and make tiny improvements so that hopefully one day it accumulates and our life becomes great, that we don't actually take the time to focus on how we can leverage every moment in the highest possible way. The last video that I recorded with this, I just recorded it before I recorded this one, was about mindset, and how mindset is when a shift in your thought changes your emotion, and then the change in your emotion changes your behavior, to put it simply. Your mindset about time, or rather I should say it like this, one way you can use your time very efficiently is by clarifying your thoughts. Because the process I just mentioned is what you can actually control. Outside of that, you can only influence. But the process of your thought, the process of your emotion, the process of your behavior, you can control no matter what you're doing. Maybe not if you're asleep, but arguably to a limited extent. You can control your behavior, your thoughts, and your emotions. So if you want to begin to shape your life in the highest leverage way you can, you focus on your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. In other words, you take your attention and you put it on yourself. And the resistance you're going to feel towards putting your attention on yourself is that you have an identity that's designed to be rigid, so it's stable, that doesn't want you to change. But it's not a worthwhile way to live. So you have to make a decision. How do you want your time to be spent? And do you want to acknowledge the amount of time that you have and that you have a limited time, and then begin to consciously manage it and take control over it? Or would you like to ignore it until eventually one day you're going to have to face it and never actually really effectively receive the motivation to take the actions you want to take and do the things that you want to do? It's basically the decision. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and if you want updates on what I'm doing or what I'm working on, or when I write things that are slightly more concise and step-by-step, you can go to the links in the description and subscribe to my newsletter, or go there and follow me on X. Thanks for watching.